Welcome, Diana, to the Guess Your Productivity Bottleneck in 3 questions or less. I'm so excited that you're here this morning.
Me too. I'm so excited. I was glad to see you.
And you. So, what is it you think that prevents you from accomplishing everything that you want to do in a day?
I think the biggest thing is that since the pandemic is I have much more responsibilities that I didn't have prior to because of regulations, because of legislation that came out, reporting requirements, and just also making sure people are safe. So I'm having to learn about viruses and masking and all sorts of stuff, plus everything else I have to do. And sometimes they compete in terms of I have 2 things that have to be done at the same time. And I'm like, oh my God, and it's hard trying to prioritize them because they're equally important. And one was planned and one wasn't planned. So, it's the eat kind of thing that's going on.
Right. So tell me more about how often the things that weren't planned, like how often do those things happen for you?
It really depends, and it's going to sound kind of strange, but it usually happens about 2 weeks after a holiday or a big event, which is a lot of times the incubation period. But in like January, we have the end of calendar year stuff, the end of calendar quarter, and our fiscal year doesn't end until June. So January is already a busy month. But we found that like 2 weeks after Christmas, 2 weeks after New Year's, we were having things like people wanting to travel, and we'd have to come up with a plan in order to, do they have to quarantine when they get back? Are they on restriction of movement? And, people ask you a question like, I need to do something now, and we have to, figure out a plan. And it's not like we have history to go on. Because, one, this is new, and 2, every single scenario is just different enough that I have to get the rest of my team involved so we can brainstorm as what's the best way to accomplish, make a decision even.
Right. And so what I'm hearing you say is that these typically happen after an event or a holiday or something, and that what you've shared so far is they're related around like travel. Are there other things that you find pop up unexpected?
Well, those are the biggest things. I mean, being an operations person, I'm real process driven, real deadlines, write things down and on and on. I'm finding that I can't anticipate a lot of things, related to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Like spring break's coming up. So we know there's going to be a lot of people traveling out of town, and we're trying to keep track of what, what's going on with that. And we also know when they come back, what does that mean? But we, when you have people that are traveling overseas, I literally have to go and look up what another country is doing and requiring so I can provide information to our staff. And that I can't plan for because I'll get an email and saying, oh, hey, we're going to be traveling in a week. So I think that's the biggest thing is that I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm, a little bit controlled in that I know what's due, I know when's due, and I have enough cushion for the regular unexpected. It's the unexpected that's the wrench.
Right. And so what I am going to pose to you is that at the beginning, you felt that your bottleneck was that you had, I like kind of like conflicting priorities. Like you knew you had something due and then something unexpected popped in and it was due at the same time. And then how do you spread your resources? And so what I'm going to say is I think the bottleneck is you don't have enough space in your calendar in a general sense to be able to handle the unexpected. And so it isn't so much that the 2 things are happening, it's that you don't have the room to be able to react with ease and grace. It's more of a rush, make a decision at the last minute. And so tell me, how does that feel?
You know,
Accurate?
and it's interesting too, because I have, you know, the low priority things that you're like, okay, I'm going to move these because they're low priority. But then you find out they've been moved for like the last 3 weeks, and now they're a
They're fixed.
priority because that cushion you had is gone. So that whole thing about not having enough space. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good. So, yes, guess the bottleneck. Awesome. So, let me walk you through the process of what we just did. So, it's the AWE process. So, A is awareness. So that's where we have to start.
Hmm.
As a process person, and that is exactly the place I always want to fall back to is we want to fix it
Hmm.
before we identify it. Like I would much rather give solutions.
Ding, 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 ding.
Right? Yes.
Right.
Much rather give solutions. Like, I don't care if it's the right problem or not. Let me just solve it. And so the A is the awareness piece. Let's step back because if we try to solve the problem of two things happening at the same time, we're missing the problem. The problem is space in the calendar in general. And it
Mhm.
could be space for those emerging priorities. It could be space to be creative, as we were talking about before we started recording this. It could be space for whatever. So that's your A piece. Then the W piece is the work, the phase that both you and I want to live in. Like, how do we create that? Like, what's our solution to this challenge? Like, how do we create something that works for you easily, not something that you have to make yourself do, but some sort of a structure that fits into that, whatever that could look like. And
Mhm.
then the E phase is evaluation, which is making sure that our solution, A, solve the problem. Also, making sure that the problem we've identified was really the problem. And what I find more often than not is sometimes the solution will create an unintended consequence.
Oh my God, yes.
So, like what you just said about, I'll just move these low priority items to create space.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, if we think of Covey's four quadrants, quadrant two stuff, given enough time, becomes quadrant one. And you
Mhm.
just moved it and moved it to where it now all of a sudden became urgent. And so that's that evaluation phase. Let's make sure the solution is right, working on the right problem, and hasn't created additional problems on its own. So AWE, awareness, work, evaluation. So now you have awareness.
Mhm.
Now it's just time to figure out what's your solution look like and then make sure it's the right solution.
Yeah, you know, and it's so funny that you said that because I'm one of those. The Molly always laughs. She's never worries about anything because I'm already worrying about it, and I have Plan B, Plan C, all the way through Plan AA sub 1-2. You know,
Exactly.
all the way through, and I probably am spending a lot of time on that as opposed to what's in front of me. What can I address now? And like maybe push that down a little bit because maybe I'm creating a problem by trying to figure out what the solution is to a problem that doesn't exist yet.
Right. It may never exist.
Hmm. Ah, look at that.
Look at us. We did it. We did it. We did it. If you would also like to play the Guess Your Productivity Bottleneck game, jump on impactivestrategies.as.me and you can apply to be a contestant. And if you love Diana as much as I do, because who wouldn't? You want to check out her YouTube channel where she has tons of really cool videos. And I will put the link to her YouTube channel in the comments. Thank you, Diana.
Thanks. I appreciate it.